And we are live, Mets and overall baseball fans. Thank you guys so much for chiming back into the latest live stream here on WardyNYM. This time, going into breaking down everything that is expected to transpire tonight between the Mets and the Phillies as the Mets start this 3-game series in Philly, their second series of the season, their first true test out of the 162 year for the most part. So we'll be going over the lineups for both the Mets and the Phillies today, what I like, what maybe I don't like, who are the key matchups, especially pitching-wise and batter-to-pitcher-wise, and breaking down everything that there is to know about this series as a whole, with this also being a series preview. So a lot to get into. I'm very excited. Another day, another game of Mets baseball. I love a 162 season because baseball just doesn't stop, baby. Even after a loss, you get a chance to come back basically the next day all throughout the season. That's really what I love most about the sport. But we got a lot to get into. Very excited for it. Absolutely. A little nervous, but definitely excited more than anything else. But before I do anything else, I want to give a massive shout out to everyone here in the live stream right now. So let's do exactly that. I see Jordan. I see Andrew. Jordan, I did see you message me. I will message you back at some point once I get a chance to read it. Fern, Michael, how's it going? Frankie, Chris, how's it going? Great support on the channel. Charles, Jason, Ben, Bronx, how's it going? Mama Worm, how are you, my friend? Hope all is well. LFGM, Jameson, Brendan, great member on the channel. Oliver, going down the list further. Meet the Mets, absolutely. Dolores, Peter, Ed, Jameson. Let's see, going down here. Chalk, who was the first originally in the stream. Again, love and appreciate all you guys. Shout out all you, Oliver, Christopher, Justin. How's it going? Like I said, I'll be getting all your questions, guys, very soon. What I'm going to, I think, kind of what my thought process is for right now, because you guys know that we do post-game coverage after basically every game throughout the season, but I also want to get series previews in there, so you're going to see this as much as possible to start every single series. A pregame show like this for upwards of an hour, but if you're watching replay, I'll cut things short, probably between 15 and a half hour into things, so you guys don't have to just see me answer questions for a prolonged period of time. But we'll be live here basically up until the game starts, and we got a lot to break down. Like I said, I'm very excited. I know we got questions about Luis Guillorme. I know that he is kind of the hot topic in the sense of why is he starting today over a red hot, I should say, Jeff McNeil, who's been one of the best hitters in baseball to start the season through the first 4 games. Again, I know there's some controversy early in the lineup. It's still game 5 of a normal 162. Love you too, Mama Worm. I appreciate that. But no less, let's get into it, folks. So we know this is a massive test for the Mets, okay? They won 3 of 4 in D.C. We covered it all on the channel. I was in attendance for the Mets' second game of that series, and boy, oh boy, was that exciting when Mad Max on the mound. But I'm back in town. Literally just got back home an hour ago. Rushed to get everything set up here for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. As always, folks, help us get to 100, couple hundred likes at some point. Help us get to 15K subs. And make sure you keep those notifications on for the post-game show right after tonight's game and every game throughout the series. But no less, let's talk about it. Big matchup again. Today's matchup is Taijuan Walker, who a couple days ago pitched a 45-pitch bullpen. Saw how his knee was feeling because he dealt with soreness really throughout spring, thanks to, unfortunately, the surgery he had on his knee in mid-January. Thankfully, there was no soreness with his latest bullpen, so he is getting the start tonight. Taijuan, who had an all-star first half of the season for the Mets, unfortunately just fell completely flat on his face. It Jekyll and Hyde quite first season as a New York Met last year in the second half. But now, coming into this year, his first matchup is against, yes, Ranger Suarez, the crafty lefty, and this Philadelphia Phillies team in Philly. And this is such a massive matchup because the Phillies, we saw what they did this offseason. You guys saw me rag about the Phillies so much, to rag on them in the sense that they have all this offense, but will they have the defense? The defense is the reason why they were not able to go far last year. And it very well could be the reason of their demise again this season. But there's no denying that the Phillies did make themselves better on the offensive front. They will be one of the biggest offensive powerhouses in the league, especially when you look at slugging percentage. When you have the likes of Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, the Mets killer, who I'm just shaking in my boots thinking about matching up against tonight, along with Rhys Hoskins and some others in that lineup. Boy, oh boy, are they deep. So getting into right now, we saw game 1 tonight is Taijuan Walker versus Ranger Suarez. Ranger Suarez had a phenomenal season last year for the Phillies, carved up the Mets good as well, and that went in direct hand with the Mets' construction of their lineup tonight, which is the following. Brandon Nimmo leaned off. Then we have Starling Marte, the man who the Mets were able to pry away from the Phillies, as the Phillies were so adamant and going really all in on Marte this offseason. Thankfully, Steve Cohen and the Mets outbid all other opposing clubs. we're able to land the all-star outfielder. And then Francisco Lindor in the 3-hole tonight. Pete Alonso, Eduardo Escobar, JD Davis at the DH spot. That righty-lefty matchup should benefit him, hopefully. Mark Canha in left field. Mark Canha has 7 hits in his first 10 at-bats this season. Not bad. 700 average. I will gladly take that. Luis Guillorme at second base in the 8-hole for the Mets tonight. And this is where we have the controversy ensuing. So to really talk about Guillorme for a second as to why I believe he's in the lineup, it's a couple things, and it's not necessarily that I agree with all of it, but rather it is what it is. This is why he's in the lineup. So the reason behind this, from what we know, is simply because, one, Buck Showalter wants everyone to get playing time, okay? He isn't making all the decisions for the lineup card. We know that the Mets front office, they always have a say in things, especially with the analytics that they have involved in matchups. So keep that in mind. But Guillorme getting the start over McNeil. They want to give McNeil a day off. He's off the bench. It won't surprise me if he comes in later in the game as a pinch hitter or something along those lines. But McNeil, who doesn't have great numbers in his career against lefties, especially from last season, even though that it's hard to really gauge last season's performance when everyone had a down year, and he dealt with injuries to that hamstring. No less, you have Luis Guillorme in here, and if you look at his numbers, he has 1 at-bat in his career against Ranger Suarez last season, and he did record a hit. So I know that that shouldn't be the only incentive, and I do not believe by any stretch that it is. But yes, Luis Guillorme is 1 for 1 in his career against Ranger Suarez. This lefty-lefty matchup, Guillorme had a 265 batting average and a 325 right around there on base percentage against left-handed pitchers in 2021. So these were all factors that went into why he is playing today, along with him, of course, being a strong glove. So I'm really not griping about it too much. Do I love it? No, just because, one, Jeff McNeil has been one of the best hitters of baseball to start the season. I like these guys to stay hot. I don't want to do anything that could potentially cool them down. Again, I'm really not concerned, but if there's any critique you could really make to this lineup, there's only one critique, and that is by not having Jeff McNeil in it. But again, it is game 5 out of 162. The last thing I'm going to do is literally take the time to be like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that Jeff McNeil is not in this lineup. It makes no sense. No, I understand the rationalization from Buck and the Mets side of things. Regardless of how much I like or dislike it, it is what it is. And hopefully Guillorme has a good game. Again, he's in that 8-hole, and then James McCann is batting 9th. Him and Nito split time 50-50 in the first 4 games of the Mets season. I like that. I hope to see more of that between McCann going one game, Nito going the next, and back and forth, back and forth. So regardless, looking at Guillorme, one thing I would like to mention is that he has struggled, not necessarily looked great against sinkers, against four-seam fastballs, and against changeups, really those off-speed pitches against southpaws in the MLB for the past couple years. If you look at his advanced numbers, and Ranger Suarez, he's going to throw you that exact type of arsenal. So it'll be a key matchup for him. We'll see how he will do. And Eduardo Escobar, who I didn't talk about yet, along with Brandon Nimmo, they're key matchups in themselves. Brandon Nimmo has an 833 OPS versus Suarez in his career. If you look up the numbers, there's a beautiful site. I'm actually going to give a massive shout out. I love looking them up, called swishanalytics.com. They give you all the matchups for the best hitters versus pitchers matchup of the day to find out these numbers, really who is the best hitter against this pitcher in this specific game. Also, Eduardo Escobar has a 2,000 roughly 700 OPS versus Ranger Suarez in his career, and this is over a handful of games, so it's not like it's just one game or anything like that. If I actually look at the numbers here right now for you guys for Eduardo Escobar, as I'm trying to scroll down and find them at the moment, Eduardo, let's find you, Eduardo. Where are you, my man? Hold on. Okay. Just bear with me 1 second because I lost it after originally having it. I want to see how out of how many games it was. Escobar, okay, yeah, it was out of 3 games. So out of 3 games, he has a 2,667 OPS. Again, very small sample size, but it's definitely positive. It's definitely not a negative matchup up against Suarez. So getting into now game 2, game 3, fairly briefly, we have Tyler McGill coming off of what was a tremendous season debut, opening day debut for the New York Mets, who pitched scoreless over 5+ against, yes, the former New York Met and Zach Wheeler. That is going to be quite the matchup. I'm excited for it. A little nervous for sure, but I'm definitely excited. That's going to be a pitching duel for certain. Then game 3, Max Scherzer makes his second start as a New York Met, this time against Aaron Nola. Nola, who has, unfortunately for his sake, dealt with some inflated ERA, because when you look at his advanced numbers, they are better over the past couple years than what his normal base ERA will tell you. And that goes in hand with the piss poor defense behind him. So no less, we have a lot of good pitching in this series. We're facing the heart of the order when it comes to the rotation for the Phillies in this one. For the Mets, Taijuan Walker, we will see how he does tonight, along with Tyler McGill and Max Scherzer over the coming days. But when you look at the Mets lineup tonight, I really am excited about it. Yorme, again, I hope he has a really good game, but I really like how Brandon Nimmo is matching up, especially against Suarez. Marte as well. Marte has some solid numbers in his career against Ranger Suarez. For the most part, this Mets lineup right now, I expect them to do some work in a nice hitter-friendly Phillies ballpark. But in saying that, when we look at the key Phillies in this series, and again, for everyone wondering, I will be answering all your questions very shortly, folks. I just want to break down everything about this series and this game in particular first before we really go any further. So as always, if you guys are just chopping in, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on. As always, folks, is always appreciated. But when we look at the key Phillies for this matchup, everybody, you have Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto. We all know that. You can throw Nick Castellanos in there along with some others for certain. But Kyle Schwarber, who hit 9 home runs, yes, 9 effing home runs against the New York Mets last season, has 13 bombs, 26 RBIs in his career against the Mets in only 30 games. So basically upwards of an RBI a game player against the Mets. He has quite literally been our daddy, in other words. And then you have Bryce Harper, who's always been a Mets killer. JT Realmuto has had great success as an overall hitting catcher, the best hitting catcher in baseball, arguably, you could say, well-rounded catcher at least, matching up against this Mets team. But specifically when looking at this matchup for Taijuan Walker tonight at the time of recording this, Alec Boehm, who's someone who has not played every game, Bryson Stott, the young stud of a rookie who has looked great to start the season for the Phillies, is in fact splitting time with Boehm at the third base position. But Alec's in today because Alec owned Taijuan Walker last season, had a 1,300 OPS versus Taijuan Walker in his career. So yeah, definitely when you look at the matchups right now, the Phillies are going all in on the offense. They're pushing away the defense and hoping that they just smash enough home runs and enough doubles in there to really leg out a victory. And when you look at the Phillies' biggest weakness in this one, it is, of course, the bullpen and the piss poor defense. You know, when you look at that infield, it's not, let me put it this way, their infield isn't the worst in baseball, but it definitely could be a lot better. And defensively in the outfield, I mean, need I say more? When you look at the Phillies lineup today, folks, I'll just break it down because I do know that I mentioned the Mets lineup, but I did not mention the Phillies. So let me just talk about this right now. Mets fans, bring your brick bats. Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff. I'm nervous for that. Playing in left field today, and we all know how well of an outfielder Kyle Schwarber is. Please pick up on my sarcasm. JT Realmuto in the 2-hole today for the Phillies. Playing catcher, of course, Bryce Harper in right field in the 3-hole. Nick Castellanos, another big bat that they acquired this offseason in the DH spot. Batting fourth, Rhys Hoskins, first baseman, who is not a strong defensive first baseman by any means. Awfully similar to Pete Alonso in the sense of how piss poor Pete was defensively in yesterday's game. But overall, Pete is a better first baseman than Rhys in both offensively and defensively. Really isn't all that close. Didi Gregorius then after that at shortstop. Didi in the latter half of his career, but still able to put up some decent offensive numbers. Jean Segura, second baseman, who had a really, really good year for the Phillies last year, is in the 7th spot. Alec Boehm, again, who had a really down year after starting his career red hot for the Phillies as a rookie a couple years ago, is batting 8th. And that Matt Vierling, who is another outfielder for the Phillies, is at center today, and he is batting 9th. So that is the Phillies lineup. Again, the pros for this series for the Mets, which should benefit them, is the lack of defense on the Phillies' part and getting to that bullpen. The Mets are destined to see some familiar faces in the likes of Jeurys Familia and, of course, in Brad Hand. Both of them, you know, we'll see what they bring to the table. With our luck, they're going to carve up the Mets. But I do believe that that's a matchup that should benefit the Mets, especially when Hand comes in. Hand is not the same guy that he used to be. And also when looking at Jeurys Familia, is he going to carve up the Mets, or are the Mets going to know exactly what he's bringing, considering that Familia was a New York Met for quite literally a decade? We will soon find out. But those are the pros that truly benefit the most in this situation, I would say. And the negatives, again, the cons, if you will, are this star-studded offense. This Phillies offense has potential to be one of the best in baseball this season. No one should be surprising if that, in fact, comes to fruition. Again, when you have the bombers, when you have the murderers of baseball, that is Kyle Schwarber lean off, JT Realmuto, Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, even to a lesser extent Rhys Hoskins, because you know he is popping that bat. Jean Segura can, of course, hit gap to gap, get you plenty of those singles, gets on base a boatload. They just have a really deep lineup right now, and we'll see exactly who prevails and what will be most important in this series because, again, they do have star-studded pitching for the most part. That matches up against a Mets team where Tyler McGill looked fantastic in his season debut, but how will he perform in Game 2? Again, fingers crossed, hoping for the best, but we have to see how he does. Same thing with Taijuan Walker making his debut tonight. And, of course, Max Scherzer. Max, again, didn't have the best outing in the world in D.C., definitely got the job done. However, he's had some very good numbers in his career against the Phillies. That's definitely a familiar park for him during his long time in DC. Again, we're going to see what really prevails here, but I do like the Mets' chances of hopefully winning this one. If they can win at least a series, again, I'm not expecting a series sweep, but what matters most is winning these series against crucial NL East rivals. Teams that you know are going to be big competition for you throughout the season. So, before I go any further, guys, I want to thank everyone so much again for being here. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button if you guys have been enjoying the content, excited for tonight's game and the series as a whole. And for my viewers on replay, which will be a good majority of you guys, please make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for postgame right after tonight's game and in the games ensuing over the next couple days, because this is where we're going to cut things off for my viewers on replay.